Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain, amma ba'd. First of all, let us praise to our God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us some mercies and blessings so we can attend in this course to the discussion in our Profesi Keguruan subject. Secondly, let's send salam and salawat to our Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has brightened our life. So here I'd like to introduce my group. We are from group 7 of Profesi Keguruan. My name is Anggun Anisana Jamuddin, and my friends Andi Nurul Inayah and Muhammad Tegar Indar Dewa. So we would like to present our material with the title "The Student's Perspective on the Characteristic of Effective and Ineffective English Language Teachers." So let's check it out.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Tegar Indar Dewa, and I'm from group 9. We are moving to introduction. We know schools are one of the first places where students' behavior and future educational success are shaped. At schools, there are many elements or factors that can influence the teaching and learning process may take place. There are 4 perennial truths that make the teaching and learning processing possible to take place in the classroom. If one of these is not available, there will be no teaching and learning process. The learning process itself may still take place. There are 4. The first one is teacher, of course. The second is students. The third is material, and the last one is context of time and place. All of them are related to each other. Teachers have important role for the success of teaching and learning process. Teachers are carriers of either positive or negative behavior towards students. Students tend to copy the behavior and mannerism of the teachers. The teacher's entire personality is a reflection on the minds of the students. And if the teacher is honest, leads a balanced and disciplined life, the children adopts these virtues as an ideal conduct unconsciously. The ideal teachers, one who through their thoughts, words, and deeds gives an impression of an honest, upright life which can serve as a model for the students to copy, follow, and emulate. Therefore, the researcher believes the way students age depends on the teacher's attitude. It is very important that teachers encourage students because students will benefit from it. A teacher carries a big responsibility in her classroom. One reason is that all students depend on her or him. Everything the teacher says will have an impact on the students. If the teacher feels joy or feels anger, it will be spread among students because the attitude of the teacher gets contagious. If the teacher love, students also love because the teacher are responsible for the social behavior in the classroom, of course. If something goes wrong, the only responsible is the teachers, even if it was not their fault. Furthermore, it is sometimes realized that most of the students have problems with their teacher. Although there will never be a perfect relationship between teachers and students, but as teachers should build a good relationship with the students or even try to be an effective teacher for them. Despite it all, a teacher should avoid some criteria that can categorize him to be an ineffective teacher. And we are moving to research questions. There are 2 research questions that we have. This research attempts to answer the following research questions. The first is, what are the students' perceptions on the characteristic of an effective English teacher? The second is, what are the students' perceptions on the characteristic of an ineffective English teacher? Uh, we are moving to objective of the research. The objective of the research is to describe the characteristic of an effective and ineffective English language teacher, so that English teacher can have a broad and wide knowledge to follow to be an effective English language teacher, as well as actions to avoid in order not to be an ineffective English language teacher. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would like to continue the submaterial. The title is Methodology of the Research. So it consists of some points. The first is respondents, the second one is method, instrument, and procedure, the third is coding, the fourth is open coding, and the last one is axial coding. So I will explain those points one by one. Let's jump to the first point. The first is respondents. Also, the respondents of this research were from the students of English Education Department that have experience of having been taught by several kinds of English teachers. And then there will be 20 respondents that will be grouped into two groups, and then will answer two different kind of questions. And then the second point is method, instrument, and procedure. So this research employed qualitative method by applying coding of qualitative data. The main instrument of this research was the data in the form of essay. So the essay were collected from the students. The data analysis was carried out by following the grounded theory, procedure, and technique, comprised three steps. The first one is open coding, the second one is axial coding, and then the last one is selective coding. So let's jump to the third point. Coding. Coding is the process of examining the raw qualitative data, which will in the form of words, phrases, sentences, or paragraph. And this will be assigning codes or labels like Strauss and Corbin identified that the following types of coding will be axial coding and then open coding. So let's jump to the fourth point, the open coding. So it is the part of coding. We sweep through the data and mark by circling or highlighting sections of the text that selected codes or label. For example, we circles words or phrases describing the behavior of the head of department. And then the second point, the next point is axial coding. It is still the part of the coding, of course. And then eventually we have a large number of codes, and you will find it necessary to sort them into some sort of order into groups, and this is called axial coding. Two common types of axial coding are non-hierarchical and hierarchical. So axial coding is divided into types. The first is non-hierarchical, and the second one is hierarchical. Well, so now I will jump to the next submaterial. It is the title of the material is Review of Related Literature. So Anton Lee in 2003 found out that there are 5 key factors that provide a foundation for a good teaching. The first one is teacher knowledge, enthusiasm, and responsibility for learning. And then the second one is classroom activities that encourage learning. The third one is assessment activities that encourage learning through experience. It's like practical and so on. And then the fourth is effective feedback that establish the learning process in the classroom. And then the last one is effective interaction between the teacher and the students, creating an environment that respects, encourages, and simulates learning through experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's enough for my section. I will give it to my friend. So, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Anit Nurinaya and I will present the next materials. Those are the data of an effective and the data of an ineffective teacher. But before that, I want to tell you something that in this part there are so many points, so I will just mention some of them. The first is teacher's personality of the data of an effective teacher. The first is pleasing, giving attention to her students, loving her job, being funny, being an understandable person. Then teaching performance. What teaching performance that not merely using textbooks. Then teaching method. What kind of teaching method that an effective teacher used? The first is not using old method, demonstrating experiments, showing authentic material, showing picture of the object, and changing complicated subject into the fun one. Next, the way treating the students, how they treating the students. The first is knowing how to appreciate the students, building the students' spirit, giving reward, motivating the students, and treating students like friends. Then, how about the classroom management? The first is making classroom funny and comfortable, creating enjoyable, relaxed class, solving the problem easily and effectively, applying many kinds of games, and bringing the students to the study outside the classroom. The second, teachers' competence of professionalism. The first is having in-depth knowledge about the subject or material, brilliant, having a wonderful ability, teaching the right answer, being smart and can speak many languages. The third or the last, teacher's appearance. The first is handsome or beautiful, cute haircut, pointed nose, smiling face, good looking, having a clean skin, and being. From the data that I mentioned before, the following principles were taken out from the deep analysis in the form of essay for considering the characteristic of effective English language teacher as follow. The first, having a good and pleasant personality that can make and create a good relationship with the students to have the material easily and comfortably. An effective teacher also celebrates his or her students' success by praising them. The second is showing an appropriate teaching performance that includes teaching method, material mastery, and teachers' behavior. Toward the material and classroom management to cover all of the students need in order to encourage the students to have a higher achievement of the subject. A good teacher should be able to consider the needs of the students and then decide on the right approach to be used in his or her class. Next, the third is showing a good appearance. Showing a good appearance doesn't always mean that the teacher should be beautiful or handsome, but he should show a nice looking to his student. Okay, the second, the data of an effective teacher. The data of an effective teacher is categorized into the following. The first, an acceptable personality. What kind of an acceptable personality that include as or categorized as an effective teacher? The first is unfair, boring, annoying, bad-tempered, scary, unfriendly, lazy. Next, an acceptable performance in the classroom. how the bad way in treating the students that an effective teachers do. The first is not answering the student's question, judging the student by saying stupid, scolding the students, not like to be asked about the material, and refusing to be corrected. The next, actions concerning with the teaching method. The first is giving assignment without explanation before. Boring teaching method, no jokes in the classroom, no chance for students to speak, bad teaching method. Next, what kind of bad model for students to follow? The first, coming late to the class and selling copy of material to the students. Okay, incompetence. The number 3, incompetence. Mastery of material. The first is unable to answer the question of the students. The explanation is confusing, weak competence or incompetence, lack of creativity, and always confusing on the textbook. How about the classroom management? The first is getting busy with herself without considering the student's need, creating a boring class, lack of intrapersonal intelligence, the less attention to his students, and not knowing the student's background. Number 4, unacceptable appearance. What kind of unacceptable appearance that include as an ineffective teachers? The first is being slipshod and dirty. The second, not dressing neatly and cluttered. From the data that I mentioned before, the following principles were taken out from the deep analysis in the form of essay for considering the characteristic of ineffective English language teachers as follows. The first, having unacceptable personalities that can lead the teacher to the problem with the students. The second, incompetence. This includes material mastery and classroom management. If a teacher feels lack of these two elements, it is suggested to have more training, because these are more important thing in teaching. How a teacher can manage the class. If he or she is poor in the classroom management as well as material mastery, of course he or she cannot teach well if he doesn't know how to teach. The third, having an acceptable or bad appearance. An English teacher should always show the good appearance, because if he or she has a bad temper, it will attract the students concentrating on judging their teacher. For the conclusion, the student's perception on the characteristic of effective and ineffective English language teacher might vary. When thinking of an effective EFL teacher in general, one may list a number of features of characteristics. These characteristics can be sorted in a more specific manner when listing the qualities of an effective EFL teacher. As a matter of fact, the characteristics of an effective teacher will determine the success of teaching and learning process. For suggestion, it's suggested for the further research to have a deep investigation on students' perception on effective and ineffective English language teachers by having a different respondent to have more variable data. Maybe that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.